The $400,000 Rolls Royce died in the middle of Fifth Avenue at the worst possible moment. Steam poured from under the hood. Inside, a millionaire CEO was about to lose a $15 million deal. And standing on the sidewalk, watching it all unfold, was a 17-year-old homeless boy with 73 cents in his pocket. Now here's where it gets crazy. Tyrique was late for the biggest meeting of his life. His mechanic was 45 minutes away. This homeless teenager was offering to fix a $400,000 car with his bare hands. Tyrique had two choices: trust the impossible or lose everything. What would you do? Because what Tyrique decided in that moment, and what Miller did in the next 15 minutes, would prove that sometimes the people society throws away are the exact ones who can save us. This is the true story of how grease-stained hands and one broken-down car created a miracle. And trust me, you won't believe where this goes. Welcome to Kindness Arena. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and unseen connections that change lives, please help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. Help me show her that stories like this matter and deserve to be heard by hitting the subscribe button, liking the video, comment your thoughts, where you're watching from, and share it with someone who needs it to stay motivated. Your support keeps these powerful, true stories alive. The morning sun had barely crested over the city skyline when Miller Tao woke up in his usual spot, a narrow alcove between two brick buildings that shielded him from the wind. At 17, he'd been on the streets for 3 years, ever since his father died and the bank took their auto repair shop. Miller had learned everything from his dad: how engines breathed, how transmissions sang, how every car had its own personality. But now those skills seem worthless. Who'd trust a homeless kid with grease under his fingernails? He rolled up his cardboard mattress and tucked it behind a dumpster, then splashed cold water from a public fountain on his face. His stomach growled, reminding him he'd only eaten half a sandwich yesterday, something a kind stranger had left on a bench. Miller checked his pockets. 73 cents. Not enough for breakfast. As he walked down Fifth Avenue, his eyes unconsciously scanned every car that passed. It was a habit he couldn't break. That BMW needed new brake pads. He could hear it from 20 feet away. The Honda had a loose alternator belt. The Tesla's alignment was off. His father used to say, "Son, cars talk if you know how to listen." That's when Miller heard it, a sound that made him stop dead in his tracks. A deep, expensive purr was interrupted by a violent shudder, followed by a metallic grinding that made him wince. A pristine white Rolls Royce Cullinan, probably worth more than most houses, was limping down the street before pulling over with a hiss of steam from under the hood. The driver's door opened, and out stepped a man who looked like he'd been cut from a magazine. Tyrique George wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Miller had seen in his entire life. His watch caught the sunlight, a Patek Philippe, Miller guessed. The CEO of TG Auto Imports was known even to street kids like Miller. His company supplied luxury car parts to half the dealerships in the state. Tyrique's face was a mask of barely controlled fury as he barked into his phone. "I don't care what you have to do, Marcus. I need to be at that meeting in 20 minutes. 20. The Yamazaki deal is worth $15 million. If we lose it because of..." He stopped, staring at the steam rising from his hood. "Just get someone here. Now." Miller found himself walking toward the car, drawn by an instinct stronger than common sense. "Excuse me, sir," Miller said quietly. Tyrique barely glanced at him, taking in the worn jacket, the too small shoes, the general air of someone society had forgotten. "Not now, kid. I don't have any change." "I don't want money," Miller said, though his stomach disagreed. "I can fix your car." Tyrique's head snapped around. For the first time, he really looked at Miller, this scrawny teenager with hopeful eyes and dirt on his cheeks. Then Tyrique laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, exactly, but it was the laugh of someone so stressed they'd found something absurd to release the pressure. "You?" Tyrique shook his head, returning to his phone. "Kid, this is a Rolls Royce Cullinan. It costs $400,000. The engine alone is a masterpiece of German engineering. Unless you trained at the Rolls Royce factory in Goodwood, I don't think." "It's the cooling system," Miller interrupted. "Your upper radiator hose has a split. I can hear the pressure loss. And there's a secondary issue. Your water pump bearing is starting to fail. That's the grinding sound. Tyrique's finger hovered over his phone screen. He stared at Miller with new eyes, skeptical but curious. How could you possibly know that from just... The steam is coming from the front left side of the engine bay, not the center. That's where the upper hose connects. And the grinding happens in rhythm with the engine RPM, not the wheel rotation, so it's not the transmission or differentials. Water pump bearing is the only thing that makes that sound in that location. A long moment passed. Tyrique looked at his phone, then at the steam, then back at Miller. My mechanic is 45 minutes away in this traffic. I can do it in 15, Miller said with quiet confidence. With what tools? Tyrique challenged. I don't see a toolbox. Miller pointed to a hardware store across the street. I need $60 for parts. Duct tape, epoxy resin, a utility knife, and if they have it, some high-temp silicone wrap. I could do a temporary fix that'll get you to your meeting and then to a proper mechanic. Tyrique studied Miller's face, searching for the con. But all he saw was earnest determination and something else, the kind of knowledge that couldn't be faked. This is insane, Tyrique muttered. Then, shocking himself, he pulled 3 20s from his wallet. You've got 15 minutes. But if you damage my car, I won't, Miller said simply, already heading to the store. 12 minutes later, Miller's hands were covered in grease and resin, but he worked with the precision of a surgeon. Tyrique watched in amazement as this homeless kid navigated the Cullinan's engine bay like he'd designed it himself. Miller wrapped the split hose with layers of high-temp tape and epoxy, reinforcing it with careful, practiced movements. Then he addressed the water pump, using a technique Tyrique had never seen, repositioning the tension to take pressure off the failing bearing. Your water pump will last another week, maybe 2, Miller said, not looking up from his work. But you need to replace it soon. The hose patch will hold for a few days if you don't push the engine too hard. Where did you learn this? Tyrique asked, his skepticism evaporating. My dad. He owned Tao's Auto Repair on 7th Street. We worked on everything beaters to Bentleys. He said every engine has a soul, and if you respect it, it'll respect you back. Tao's Auto Repair. Tyrique's expression shifted. That place closed 3 years ago. Yeah. Miller's hands paused for just a second. My dad had a heart attack. I was 14. Couldn't keep up with the bills. Tyrique was quiet, watching Miller finish the repair with a professional's efficiency. When Miller finally closed the hood and wiped his hands on his jeans, Tyrique turned the key. The engine purred to life, smooth, strong, no grinding, no shudder. I'll be damned, Tyrique whispered. He got out of the car and stared at Miller as if seeing him for the first time. Get in. What? Get in the car. You're coming with me. But That wasn't a request. 10 minutes later, Miller sat in the most comfortable seat he'd touched in 3 years, watching the city blur past. Tyrique was on the phone, but his tone had changed. Marcus, I'll be there in 5. And I'm bringing someone with me. They pulled up to a gleaming tower of glass and steel. Inside, Tyrique led Miller past security, who eyed Miller's appearance with concern, into an elevator and up to the 42nd floor. The conference room was full of men in suits, all looking impatient. Gentlemen, sorry for the delay, Tyrique said smoothly. My car broke down, but fortunately, I found the best mechanic in the city. He put a hand on Miller's shoulder. This young man diagnosed and repaired a complex engine issue in under 15 minutes with basic tools. That's the kind of practical genius my company values. The meeting went well. Tyrique closed the Yamazaki deal. But Miller hardly remembered it. He was too busy trying to understand what was happening. After the meeting, Tyrique took Miller to his office. You have a gift, Tyrique said, and you saved me $15 million today. So here's what's going to happen. I'm enrolling you in the automotive engineering program at Mitchell Technical Institute. Full scholarship. I'm also getting you an apartment, nothing fancy, but safe and warm. And starting next month, you'll work part-time at my company's service center. Paid, obviously. Miller's eyes burned with tears he'd been holding back for 3 years. Why? Because your father was right. Engines have souls. But so do people. And I almost missed yours because I judged you by your circumstances instead of your character. Tyrique leaned forward. Also, because when I was 16, I was living in my uncle's garage, sleeping on a cot between a Buick and a transmission jack. Someone gave me a chance. Now it's my turn to pass it forward. Miller couldn't speak. He just nodded. One more thing, Tyrique said. What was the name of your father's shop? Tao's Auto Repair. Yes, sir. In 5 years, when you finish your training, I want you to reopen it. I'll back it financially. This city needs mechanics who actually care about cars and the people who drive them. Deal. Miller found his voice, though it shook. Deal. As they left the building, Miller looked back at the Cullinan in the parking garage. It had broken down at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right place. His father used to say that cars had a way of bringing people together. Maybe he was right about that, too. 6 months later, Miller Tao sat in his first college class, his toolbox, a gift from Tyrique at his feet. He still remembered what it felt like to sleep in an alcove. He never forgot where he came from. But now, when he looked ahead, he saw something he hadn't seen in years, a future. And it all started with grease-stained hands and the courage to say, I can fix this. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness is never wasted and that even a broken path can lead to beautiful places and change of lives, please like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Arena, because your support keeps stories like this alive and spreading. Tell us in the comment what you would have done differently if you were the millionaire. Would you have allowed the boy to help you? Or has a stranger's kindness ever changed your life in ways you didn't expect? We'd love to hear your story.